This conference will now be recorded.
This is the Emergency Preparedness Commission meeting for December 12, 2024. If we can do a roll call. Let's see, Commissioner Pierce,
Present.
Commissioner Howe, Commissioner Miller,
Here.
Commissioner Bryant,
Here.
Commissioner Burns,
Present.
Commissioner Lohaus is not here tonight, and Commissioner Lawton here. Okay, you have the October 24th minutes before you, if you've had a chance to review those. And I'll look for a motion to approve those minutes when you're ready.
I'll move to approve.
A second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Okay, any public comments on the meeting agenda at this time? Okay. I wanted to briefly inform the audience here, if you're not aware of the Emergency Preparedness Commission, we're about almost 2 years old now as a commission of the city of Port Orford. Prior to this, the EPC was an informal group who did quite a bit of preparedness and for emergencies. And then on October 2023, the city council actually passed an ordinance that created the Emergency Preparedness Commission. So we've been here almost 2 years. One of the first things we did was a mission statement, and it's very brief. I'll read it to you so you have a little idea of what we do. Our mission is to inform and educate residents of the Port Orford community to prepare and respond to any emergency that may include a wildfire, earthquake, or tsunami, and to provide guidance and support to the city of Port Orford in planning for and responding to such emergencies. Given that mission statement, we have approximately 10 goals that we're pursuing in order to accommodate the city. I'm more than willing to give out information with regard to the mission statement and goals if anyone wants to come and approach me after the meeting. Okay, new business. We're going to allow comments in this meeting because we want to hear from the community, from the public. That's what this meeting is all about tonight. So we're going to have a few rules, one of which that if you want to say something, you come to the podium, you introduce yourself and where you live within the city or otherwise. And then we limit your comments to 3 minutes. And basic rules for this evening. Okay, so first on our agenda is the Curry County Emergency Services Manager, who is Jeff Hughes, who is here to talk about what has happened with regard to the tsunami warning based on the county.
Sorry, the laptop wrongfully indicates that I'm technically proficient. I'm really not that technically proficient, but I'm just trying to pull information up for folks to be able to look at it in the chat.
Let's see, can everybody hear Jeff? Can you talk? Is your mic on, Jeff?
Good question. Sounds like it.
Just make
Okay.
sure you talk into it.
Yep, we'll do. Okay. Yeah, my name is Jeff Hughes, Emergency Manager for Curry County. Been in position about 4 months. I think this is my third time attending one of your guys' meetings. Just try to keep lines of communication open, be able to answer information, that sort of thing. And obviously, in this particular incident, last Thursday, the 5th of December, we had a earthquake warning. Actually, an earthquake struck down in the area of Northern California. I can't quote the exact location, but was offshore, about 7 to 7.3 earthquake that generated an alert from the USGS service, which most folks seem to have gotten automatically on their cell phones. And then a few minutes later, we had a tsunami warning, and a few minutes after that, we had a wave strike time, which by my receipt was 20 minutes after the receipt of the tsunami warning. At that time, Port Orford was scheduled. By the list I got, Port Orford was supposed to be the first location struck by the wave at, I want to say it's 11:20 in the morning. No wave height was get pushed out from government agencies at that time. And then we executed our somewhat fledgling, updating evacuation plan for county personnel, activated the tsunami siren, which is still in operation in Harbor, down just south of Brookings. I had my assistant get on the phone and call up here to make sure your guys' siren was activating and that fire and law enforcement personnel were driving into the low-lying areas, loud hailing to announce that there was an impending potential tsunami striking the coastline and that everyone should move to high ground as soon as possible. Shortly after that, went up to what was our initial, I can't call it an EOS, an emergency operations center, because it's just me. And my wife, she was running another phone for me. But we went up the top by Coos Fire Protection District in Gold Beach, where we were at. And from there, I could get decent communications, see the ocean. Dispatch was in one of the offices behind me where they moved into because they had to evacuate also. And we were up there trying to run comms and answer questions, push information to the state, push information out to responders and citizens, and till the all clear was called about 1 hour and 3 or 4 minutes after. And that was actually broadcast by the U.S. Weather Service. I didn't receive that notice initially. One of the people at the Weather Service called me directly on my phone and told me. And then we canceled the alert and county operations, and I assume everybody else went back to normal operations after that. Since then, just to let you know what I've been doing. Since then, I've been contacting agencies that here on the coast. I've listed about 25 agencies ranging from fire, medical, all law enforcement agencies, schools, hospitals, those entities to say, okay, now we dodged that bullet because obviously we didn't get washed away, fortunately. So how do we prepare for the next one? This is what the county is doing right now. How can we help you with that, with your individual plans? And you guys had the first meeting that I could kind of crash and come up and speak to everyone. And my plan was, and still is, to push out the community meetings, starting with your guys' tonight, to in different areas of the county, so I can have invitational meetings to answer questions and push out information to the citizenry as to what happened, why things went the way they went, what things went right, what things went wrong, and what things we're going to try to improve on. And most importantly, to try to get some information directly to our citizens to say, this is the circumstance we have here on the Oregon coast. There's lots of hazards other places in the country and the world don't, or have, that we don't have here, but this happens to be one of ours. So let's prepare for it so we're better prepared for the next inevitable incident, which is going to happen at some point. We're going to have a similar, worse or better circumstance happen right here where we're sitting. So we might as well prepare for it and get ready to respond to that individually and as government entities. So that's what I'm here for, is try to answer questions and give any more information out that I can.
Well, I'm curious, Jeff, so far, what have you found that needs to be improved with regard to the county's response?
So from county's response directly, there's a bunch of stuff I haven't had a chance to debrief, like the sheriff's office yet, because they immediately have a week-long meeting, so that administration is out of the county right now. So there's some stuff with the sheriff's office that I'm going to do directly. Specifically with the county, working county personnel, we were operating off of old and not well-trained evacuation drills, which I had new outlines written on my desk. I just hadn't got those pushed out to be trained to county personnel because apparently I wasn't in a big enough hurry, but I am now. So we're working on our evacuation plans for the county personnel, working on a list of essential personnel so that people, like in an instance of an emergency like that, we don't necessarily need finance and HR to stick around at work, but we really do need law enforcement, fire, medical, maintenance personnel, and leadership personnel to stay at work. So we had some personnel that didn't know whether they should go or stay. So we're working on a list of people who can go and people who need to stay, and making sure they're provisioned and have the things they can do to continue working and continue operations and continuing, if needs be, rescue, rebuild, and restructure operations in the immediate aftermath of something like this. I'm constantly trying to upgrade our pre-positioned supplies, equipment, and plans. That's an ongoing thing. That's kind of my full-time job that I work on, is that right there. So it never begins or ends. It just is. That's just what I'm working on, continuing. A lot of good notes from that are getting changed. Some stuff worked great. Some stuff didn't work as great. So working on changing the stuff that didn't work so great and make it go better next time. One of the things I want to do in these meetings, and especially with the meeting with you folks right here, is right now you guys have probably the most active emergency committee in the county that I'm aware of, with the exception of COAD. COAD is an interagency meeting, or interagency committee with volunteers and representatives of DHS, county, and that sort of thing. They've been in place also. We had a meeting, I think, the night of, is to help you guys work out what went right and what went wrong in your town. Being the county's emergency manager, I can't necessarily be counted on to help your town individually, specifically. I can help with plans ahead of time, and obviously help with trying to push out supplies and assistance and anything else like that I can in the aftermath, during and in the aftermath. It's one of the reasons I wanted to individually talk to all the agencies. Talk to the police department up here, talk to fire department up here, a couple different representatives from each, got a list of things that seemed to go good. Obviously, some things didn't go right. One of the things that sounds like it didn't go necessarily right is it seems like a good portion of the town used one little skinny road, 18th Street, to go evacuate, when in truth, if you look at the tsunami maps which are in existence, high ground is all around the town. And so maybe we need to push that information out to citizens, make sure they know that if this happens in the future, we don't have to pack the entire town up 18th Street. Because one of the issues I think that happened is people started stopping and parking, and you get one of those, that's okay. Two of those, maybe not. But the third time somebody stops a car, the road's done. Because there's no way to get anybody by, let alone emergency vehicles and equipment and anything else. So like in this instance I was just speaking about here, the fastest and easiest route to evacuate out of Port Orford to a safe zone is to drive north on Highway 101. You got a wide portion of Highway 101. Pretty much anything north of Silver Butte, by any of the tsunami maps information I have, is in a safe inundation zone, safe, even for a Cascadia event. And we don't obviously want people clogging up the highway, but it's pretty wide spot of the highway. So you could pack half a town up there along the side of the highway, and everybody sit and visit until the all clear is either called or until the incident is over, and then we figure out our next plans from there. So
Wouldn't Elk River, though, be the northernmost point? You wouldn't want to go too deep into that area.
If you look at the maps, clearly there's some areas, like you go north, there's a good open area there, and then it drops down to the entrance of Elk River. That's not someplace I would go. I had citizens tell me, well, we're 2 miles up Elk River, we're safe. We got a big floodplain. I'm like, well, I would say maybe safe, maybe not. I don't know the answer to that 100%. But as soon as you go north of Elk River, it climbs back up to kind of the plateau there for Cape Blanco, and it's the same instance there. We could staff half the town could probably parked up there if you got farther north of Elk River, and then again it drops back off and go down to sixes. So again, looking at the map, you can plan out kind of individual routes as to where would work for individual folks. Now I know that in the conversations I've had a ton of communication come in, firsthand, third hand, whatnot, from folks about folks say I don't have a cell phone, I don't carry my cell phone, I don't have any method of communication to receive this report, I don't have a vehicle. So there's all kinds of challenges that each individual area is going to have to face when we have this the next incident. And that's a plan that we probably need, we as in different entities working together, need to have to kind of solve those issues that have come up. One of the big ones about notification, I've heard a bunch of times from folks that they have said they don't carry their cell phone for a notification. Or I've found very few people who didn't get the automatic notifications from USGS. That's one of the things I didn't get a chance to ask everybody here whether they did or not. The county has the Everbridge system, which is a subscription-based system, which is on the county's website. That's our primary information dissemination tool right there. The issue with that particular system is the county didn't have an opportunity to send a message out because dispatch was in the process of trying to evacuate, and they had a big technical error because the radio truck wouldn't go. So then there was a gap of information in there, and you had probably the most capable dispatch team that I remember working for when I was with the sheriff's office still. But they can't make everything doesn't go 100% when you're in a hurry trying to get your stuff, trying to get you, your personnel, your essential equipment to communicate with, move to a secondary site when your equipment breaks down. So I know that's one of their primary things. When I talked to dispatch, I said, what can I do to help you guys? She said, this is what I need. I'm a reliable vehicle. I said, let me write you a check. Only kidding, I don't have a checkbook for that, but let's work on helping you get that fixed. So that's in process as of the day after the circumstance. But that Everbridge message did not get dispatched by the county. That is still our primary technological dispatch or information system. And I know the U.S. Weather Service used Everbridge to send out the information about wave height, tsunami times, wave information, and the all clear. So I highly, highly recommend that folks go onto the county website and subscribe to the Everbridge system. I've been asked, well, I've subscribed to it. Does my wife or boyfriend, husband, whatever need to subscribe to it also? And my answer to that is yes. Every technological device that can receive that message, I would subscribe to it. Now, the reason is communication is always the number one thing on a debrief that goes wrong. Going back to as far as probably human history, communication is always the number one thing that breaks down. So my plan is always to have a layered response of communication to push information out. And Everbridge is one of those layers. So if we depend on just one phone number, like somebody's primary cell phone or the hardline phone, if for whatever reason that system doesn't go down, we don't want the message to be missed by email, text, the other phones in the household. So I do recommend that everybody in the household subscribe to Everbridge. That takes care of that portion of a communications layer right there. Now we've got the automated system that USGS used. We have Everbridge that the county can operate, that the Weather Service can operate, and other government entities can push information out. The other portion of our communication system that's going to be put out, which is kind of our emergency one, obviously, is a tsunami siren. There are only 3, and people are going to raise their hand and say there's more, there's less. There are only 3 operating tsunami sirens that I'm aware of in Curry County. Those sirens.
We don't have.
No, and that's, see, I'm generically calling the siren, if I can call it a siren, a tsunami siren, and it can be operated and used for that, that's the reason I'm saying it. I know that your guys' siren up here, in our household, we call it the lunch siren because it goes off, my dogs know it's time to be fed again.
It's on a timer.
Yeah, and it's on a timer. And the one in Harbor is actually on a push button, so it has to be pushed and held down. So hopefully they pick somebody who can run really fast to operate that because obviously they're the last person out. But we only have those 3 sirens in Curry County. The state is not going to invest in any more tsunami sirens at this time. Obviously, I don't speak for the governor or the OEM, but that's the information I have, is that no more tsunami sirens are going to be installed in the Oregon coast due to cost and cost of maintenance. And the price that was quoted to me, again, this is what was told to me by the people who probably know, was $225,000 per siren. And at one point back in the day, I'm told that Curry County had between 12 and 17 operating sirens. So we can see that if we tried to replace that entire system, obviously that's a cost that neither the county or the state has to fork out right now. There was also some confusion about how the sirens are activated. The one in Harbor, the Harbor Fire Department discovered it, got it working, contacted me, asked when we wanted it activated. We came up with a protocol. When I contacted them directly, they enacted their protocol and it went fine. That protocol we had, and that's just, we call you, we want you to go to the low-lying areas and do loud hail announce, just like every other agency was expected to or asked to do, and at the same time, activate your tsunami siren. A couple of issues came up from there specifically, and we're going to work on that. Namely, apparently their fire department was also the command center for a couple different agencies, and with the siren going, it was so loud they couldn't talk. So again, lessons learned. Things went right, things went wrong. So we're working on fixing those right now. But I really don't want to depend on sirens because there's very few sirens to use for notification. And it seems like a lot of citizens feel that I don't have to leave until I hear the siren. And that's not true. Once you get your notification, read your notification. In this circumstance, we had a 20 to 25 minute response time between notification and alleged arrival of wave or first wave. So people need to go immediately. During the tsunami, I think it was 2011, and from Japan, I want to say it was 7 or 8 hour notice. So now we have time to enact a more thorough evacuation, move more stuff, that sort of thing. One of the things I'm asking, and it's information that we put out in a press release that was released from the county on the 6th of December. And in that press release, there's links to preparation booklets, also links to Everbridge, a couple of links on there for preparing for circumstance and that sort of thing. In that press release, with all the preparation books we have released out there, describes how to put together a prepared for 2 weeks. That's what the state wants us to push out for information, is prepare for a 2-week emergency circumstance. In a case like we had yesterday, or not yesterday, I'm sorry, last week, I recommend people at the very minimum have a bag or a box that has the stuff they need to be able to survive outside of their home for the time of the incident and perhaps longer. There's all kinds of resources online that give folks lists and things like that of tools and items to put in those bags and boxes, and that just makes people that much more resilient if they have to leave their home, stay out of their home for a period of hours. In the circumstance like last week, it was only an hour and 3 or 4 minutes, but that could have very easily have stretched into 36 hours if we had a major incident where we're still receiving very dangerous wave activity for a full day, sometimes a day and a half after the initial incident. So I highly recommend folks just put together a little kit. It doesn't have to be anything huge. Even if it's just a couple bottles of water, a jacket, a blanket, maybe a couple books or toys for kids to play with, in a tub or a bag. You can throw that in a car when you go to evacuate. Whatever stuff folks may need just to operate or to stay as comfortable as possible for that time period for the incident itself. That takes a lot of burden. Well, it doesn't take the burden off entities that are trying to help folks with, the government or fire, but it makes things easier for those entities because their resources will be stretched further and there's fewer people that are going to be in that emergency status in the immediate aftermath of an incident like that. Again, this should be a couple times, so I'm trying to remember if I forgot anything. I've usually begin going over with groups, but that's kind of where I'm at right now. I'll be pushing, once I've had a chance to finish my debrief of the agencies, I'm going to collate a report. I'm going to put that out to the agencies and also post it for the public. And that's what I'm ended up using for my subsequent community meetings and just to answer questions and that sort of thing. So if folks have specific questions they want to ask, I can try to answer them. And if not, I can try to direct you places to go find that information.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. Do we have anyone who would like to ask Jeff any particular question? Be mindful, though, he is with the county and oversees the county, not the city, so to speak, although we coordinate our services. Jeff, if you could step aside and we'll have people come up and introduce themselves. Thank you. Well, people can't hear your questions, so we'd appreciate it if you could come to the microphone. Thank you. And your name and address, please.
complete name.
Well, you can fudge a little bit.
So, my name is Margie. I live on 19th Street, not 18th. I have two things. One is that I did not receive, I have a landline, only a landline, and I did not receive the voice message.
Can I ask if you had signed up for Everbridge?
I don't even know what it is,
Okay,
but
that's,
is it for landlines?
I believe so. Is that correct, Gary? Everbridge is for landlines as well?
Yes, it will work for landlines, email systems,
Okay, so I would suggest you get with Gary and he can help you set that up on your landline.
Oh, okay. Now, in the past, I have received calls on my landline, but not this time. And I only found out about it because I happened to turn on, I have a radio with a NOAA station, and every morning at some point I turn it on to see what the weather's going to do today. And they were talking about the quakes and the tsunami times. And, but later, after we all came back to our homes, I got a call from the sheriff's office, but no voice. There was nothing said.
Hmm.
So that was just half acting. But also I wanted to ask if anybody else was confused with, it seems like the reports were really wacko this time. So after I heard the NOAA report, I tuned in the radio to other stations, and they were talking about 3 different locations, and I thought we had 3 different earthquakes, and that were all working their way up here. So that was a little upsetting. And then at the end, they say it was just south of Eureka, you know?
The earthquake itself, but the tsunami,
Yeah,
And-
and that's what I'm talking about. But the other 2 locations in California, it made it sound like there were earthquakes in 2 other towns. You know?
The initial report was off.
Yeah, I've never heard them be so off.
I have,
Oh,
but it's not good.
but and then it doesn't seem like it was really settled whether it was a 7.0 or a 7.3. So it seems like the reports were really not with it this time.
did you feel like you could, had you heard, say, Everbridge or understood what was supposed to be said on your phone, do you feel like you could have got out of your home and got up 18th Street or Hensley Hill or some other place to higher ground? Could you have done that?
Oh yeah, well,
You could just go up 19.
see, I just go up 19th a little further, 2 houses, and then there's the line that the tsunami can't cross.
We hope. We hope. But you felt that you could have done that whether walking or in a car. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for your input. Jim.
Yeah, Jeff, I was looking at Everbridge and their report had the tsunami hitting Port Orford at 11:20.
Yes.
The report came out at 11:24, and the local siren here came out about after 11:45.
Please.
So I know in the times, and I can only state the times that I saw on my phone, because I had them listed on my phone and I wrote them down in my notes and then compared them to the dispatch CAD. The time I had when I got the 1120 impact on the, for Port Orford on my phone, I got that right at about 11 a.m. It was about, I want to say 8 or 9 minutes after the earthquake notification. And at that point, I remember it because I said, Siri, set a timer 15 minutes. So I had a 5-minute warning to be able to give everybody, okay, you got 5 more minutes. And I had that 15 minutes to do my job. So I don't know about those times specifically. I just know that based on, and I don't know where they come from. I just know that on my notes on my phone, that's the time I had was about 11 o'clock.
This is on the Everbridge site.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
You can have this copy.
Okay, that's fine.
I think I was out of town. I was on Highway 5 trying to get home from Thanksgiving down in California, and everything went off. Everbridge went off, my pager went off, everything was sounding the alarm, and I had to pull over to discover what was going on. But I believe that was closer to 11 o'clock. It wasn't 11:30 because as I'm driving, I'm having family members find out for me what's going on and report to me what was going on. And so it was later that I actually received the fact that the tsunami warning was called off. So there was an amount of time for me, and maybe there is a difference on the response.
I'm going off of their report
Hmm.
on the site.
Okay.
I don't want to hog your time, but a couple things I remembered once I stepped down. As I said, I've given this a spiel to different agencies multiple times in the last few days. One of the things I forgot about the notification layer that is a tool that we can use, which the lady who was just up said that she had was a NOAA radio. An emergency weather radio, especially one that you can silence that will activate during an emergency notification, is another excellent tool to use, especially for folks if they don't have access to cell phone or they don't have access to the Everbridge, or they're like me and they just want to make sure they hear the notice without missing it. That's a good tool to utilize, is one of those emergency weather radios. And obviously I can't recommend a brand or anything else like that. I know there are some that are out that you can silence so you don't have to listen to the thing 24/7, but it's going to pipe up when there is an emergency, this broadcast. I do know after the initial report, when the state regional coordinator contacted me, they weren't receiving a lot of new updated information. Because I know at one point they were like, we don't have any information to give you about wave size anymore, about wave time other than what we have. And their first line information was coming out of what we were actually seeing was coming from myself and the emergency managers from Coos County. So I don't know, the state was kind of lacking information also. And I know I heard later that the tsunami center, that somebody contacted the tsunami center in that area of California where the quakes were happening. And when they contacted the person on duty, who said, apparently said, I'm a scientist, I work here, there's not going to be a tsunami. This type of earthquake does not generate one. And somehow that didn't get communicated up the line to the rest of us. I didn't find that out until yesterday. So anyway, it's not going to obviously change our response, but that's how things happen. So
Wow.
So fortunately, that wasn't apparently something that was going to happen at all. But again, it took a while for all the information to shake itself out. So any other questions I could try to answer before I run away and give somebody else a chance? Or
I wanted to ask about when would a representative from Port Orford try to contact you?
honestly, no one, I don't remember anybody from Port Orford trying to call me. At some point, I had multiple phone calls, as one might guess. And on both my phones, because I have a lot of my professional contacts come in on my personal phone, and a lot of the outside contacts come on my work phone, so I can keep them separated on two different channels, so to speak. And then I have my wife communicating with people directly on her phone, as I was saying, please call these folks, please call those folks, please call these folks, to make sure that notice was being received, because I was worried because dispatch had a breakdown with their communication system while evacuating, that we were missing that big chunk of communication. So I don't remember getting called by someone from Port Orford, but at some point my work phone did crash because of incoming calls and stopped working. And honestly, most of the calls I received were from people who either didn't educate themselves on what to do now that they had the notice, or were from reporters. And the lady from KOIN might have hung up on me. I'm sorry. But anyway, I apologize in advance now. But anyway, that's the most phone calls I got on my work phone. And like I said, most of the professional stuff was being taken care of on my personal cell phone, which did work.
I'm just curious, when would that have been the kind of thing that, say, our city administrator should have been in touch with you or the council or?
That's I mean, that's absolutely fine if you need information, which everybody does in a circumstance like that. I don't have an issue with it. The one thing that I want to try to impress that I would like to help everybody build is a program where we don't have to do a lot of communication as far as, is this real? Do we need to go? Is this really happening? How far do we need to go? What do we need to do? Is to have a plan in place in advance. And once we get notifications, the Sixes Fire Department executes their plan. Port Orford executes their plan. Langley's Fire executes their plan. Gold Beach Fire executes their plan. And I'm just there making sure everybody good, and then taking care of the other stuff. Ideally, that's what I would like us to work up to. But in any event, if you guys need help, obviously give us a call.
I'm just thinking if we had a situation where we needed help from outside of the area.
Yep, call me. I can be there's obviously I'm not gonna be your first response for, like, say, school shootings, things like that. I'll be like third or fourth in line, but I'll hear about somebody else. But
and you would be the one that would contact Salem or wherever that we needed.
Yeah, absolutely. And then they stood up when they didn't throw out. They stood up their emergency coordination center. They had that stood up and staffed within 10 minutes. It was before wave time. And then I was updating the regional coordinator as often as I could every couple of minutes as to what we were seeing and hearing. So
My concern would be in calling you, for instance. I would imagine you could be inundated with phone calls from everybody wanting to know what to do, which would make it difficult for people who really needed to coordinate with you to get through to you. Is there a way to do a recording that tells people what to do, so that when they call a certain number, they get a recording and it tells them what to do, so it's not interfering with the time you need to do other things and talk to other people?
Yep, my automated system is something I don't have yet for my because I've got my desk number, which just goes to my work cell number. That's all I have for emergency management. Right now, I don't have an automated system to do that, but that's something that's on my list of things to repair and make sure I have that in place, especially for a distant tsunami. If we have 6-7 hours to respond, it's not that we can all just chill and start working on it after lunch, but that gives everybody an opportunity to start working on those plans, and then I can get that system activated. In a circumstance like we had on Thursday where I had 20 minutes, I couldn't guarantee that I could get that going. But if I had, one of the things I could obviously do is have a pre-done thing, just click on it and let it go. And one of the things that dispatch would be able to try to assist with, also presuming their system's up and running. So I know they have the ability to do that too, because obviously their 911 system was absolutely inundated also with the same questions I was getting. So.
Any questions from commissioners? You had a question? Okay, would you like to stand and announce your name? I am assuming it's for Jeff.
It's a couple of questions. My name is Margaret Trudy. I live up on La Grona, and I have a couple of questions. One point, Jeff, you said that you were disseminating information, and I was just curious, was that on Everbright, or, I think it was at the very beginning of your talk, you were talking about, and I was thinking, how would I have been able to hear that information that you were disseminating, because there were so many alarms going off, I just thought,
So in all honesty, in this circumstance, you wouldn't have.
Okay.
Because the Everbridge didn't come from the county initially.
All right.
And when I said it was disseminating information, it was to agency level stuff. It was somebody, look, my wife said, please call so-and-so up at Langwise. I need you to call somebody over here and do this. I'm calling Harbor. I'm notifying the agencies and then talking to the state agencies to get them in place. Also talking to people in even Gold Beach, Gold Beach PD. Somebody get the chief, grab the chief on the line. Do you need anything from me? You good? Your schools are done. Your schools are emptied out. Cool. Excellent. to be honest, I couldn't have probably gotten Everbridge going. I definitely couldn't have got it going in the field with the equipment and the stuff I had at the time. That's something that's going to change. And once we get dispatch on a more kind of reliable circumstance, they can do that from their consoles. The only issue we had is their consoles wouldn't start because the vehicle wouldn't start. And it was at the time parked in the inundation zone, and we had 15 minutes to get it going. And it just wouldn't. So.
It sounds to me, Matt, one of my other questions was that Everbright is from dispatch, not necessarily you. It was just that they were having communications problems.
So they had communications problems at the time, and Everbridge is actually a system that different agencies have. Dispatch is my primary agency to utilize that. I honestly thought that it was just a dispatch circumstance. I didn't realize that the weather service could actually access it also. So when I got the first message from an Everbridge thing, didn't have my reading glasses on, I couldn't see that it was from the weather service. I could just see Everbridge, wave times, impact, and then when that's the important information right there. I don't need to take my glasses out of my pocket. I didn't actually realize that didn't come from dispatch until much later. So I thought they were up and running with Everbridge, and I didn't realize that until the meeting the following day that they didn't even get it up and running. So.
My next few questions are for the commission. So when I first got the alarm, first got the emergency, I wasn't home, but I saw that there was an earthquake. I was thinking that maybe the first thing I would do is pack up and go, and then wait to hear whether or not there's actually a tsunami associated with the earthquake, and just go from there.
Excuse me, Margot, can you come up to the podium so we can, and others can hear you? Thank you. Don't be afraid.
Again, my name is Margot Truini. My question is, so when I first heard the alarm go off that there was an earthquake, and then they said it was south of us, then I stood there. I wasn't home, but then I was like, well, what's going on? And then it went off again, and then I saw there was a tsunami, and the person whose property I was on did not have an escape route, so I just sort of did my own. But I was thinking, and then I had a hard time getting across 101 to go up, because I had to go across 101 because everybody's heading north. So then it occurred to me that after this experience, that one of the things I could do is just when I get the earthquake alarm, that I would just go. And then I would wait and see if there's going to be a tsunami and that sort of thing from there. And then I've heard from other people that say, if you feel shaking, go. Don't sit around and wait for alarms. Don't, just go. So I just want to check it and see that that's in alignment with your group.
If there's a distant tsunami, we won't feel it. So it would only be Everbridge that you would know that a tsunami from Japan or wherever was going to generate a tsunami. But if the ground is shaking, you have very little time. So you need to just not think about anything but getting to high ground.
When you hear Everbridge go off and it says tsunami, you just go, because there's enough evidence to suspect that there will be a tsunami. And maybe there will and maybe there won't. But I don't think they make these calls just on a whim. There's precautions that they're taking, and you should take those precautions, especially if it doesn't interrupt what you're doing to the extent that it would be harmful to you or your family. Just go. That's, I think, the
My question was about when I first heard the earthquake, that there was an earthquake in Southern California. There was no mention of tsunami. I'm saying in hindsight, if I heard that again, I wouldn't wait to hear if there's a tsunami. I would just go. And then I could be up there and wait and see if there's going to then be a tsunami.
I see. Probably not if you just hear that there was an earthquake, unless you really felt it, because obviously you haven't been affected by it. But if then the tsunami warning came through, you would listen to that. What do you think, Jeff? Is that kind of a scenario that she should follow?
Yes. When I saw the initial earthquake announcement from USGS, I just ran out of the courthouse because they don't trust the courthouse to stay up. And then
out of the building, we discussed it for a few minutes, and I released everybody to go back to work. Because there was no initial notice of a tsunami, there was no initial damage or anything, nobody felt anything, and said, all right, go back to work. And then right then we received the tsunami notice. And then it was, okay, we get our plans in order, let's figure out what we're gonna do, and then it was tsunami right now, and it was earthquake go that way and that way. So my recommendation is if you get a notice of a tsunami, notice of an earthquake on your phone, like we got the other day, look at it. If it doesn't affect the area that, I mean, if it didn't affect you, your area personally, I think you're okay. Now, yes, that did generate, I think I stopped counting at 50 aftershocks for that area, for that particular earthquake. But none of those were necessarily affecting us. Now, that's something I will, if you feel like you should go, I would go. But in the event of just notification like we received as far as earthquake, Northern California, and my initial app on my phone for earthquake showed it way inland. So I just shrugged my shoulders, I'm like, okay, I don't live in California. And then later on it updated that it was offshore. But yeah, the earthquake didn't bother me so much.
Okay.
And then once the tsunami warning came in, that was obviously ramped that stuff up. So you obviously pay attention to your notifications, that sort of thing, and then make your determination. Like Mr. Burns said, if you feel a big earthquake and they're specific about earthquake that lasts more than a couple minutes, and then it stops, don't wait for the government, trust me. The whole life, don't wait for us. Grab your stuff and execute your evacuation plan to your nearest and easiest access safe zone and wait for, start looking for information.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I have another question, final one. Is there any interest or is there any plans to, so what I did was I got online and I found the Dogami earthquake map that they generated. And they have a really neat map that's out there that shows like the prediction of how far up inland a tsunami would go, whether it's like a 30-foot tsunami, a 50-foot tsunami, a 100-foot tsunami. And it shows where it would go when it hits land. So what I was wondering is if I was thinking of getting it printed out, taking it, and because it's a big map and just having something like that printed out. But if you guys think that would be worthwhile for me to print out one that would be available for the public to look at and just have that kind of information available, if it would be something. They have a lot of maps out, but there was just this one that was really useful because then I was able to look and see, oh, this is what's going to hit me and this is the zone that I'm in. If hypothetically that's how
Gary,
big it
what
is.
would you suggest?
Seems like it might be interesting to talk to Denise at the library,
Okay.
and that could be a really good place. And then we could promote that it is there.
Okay.
And then people could go and look at where they live. And if they were at Ray's, where would they go? And if they were at
Right.
one of the restaurants on the south end of town, where would they go? And just kind of get a feel for it. It seems like that'd be a handy tool for the community.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to ask a question or make a comment here? I'll go to anyone online in a minute, but is there anyone else here? Okay. Joseph, do we have anyone online who wants to make a comment or has a question?
Not that I'm seeing. No one has commented. No one is raising their hand.
Hi, Joseph, this is Clark.
Okay.
I asked a question in the chat, and I'm wondering what the backup method is for the city to communicate with the county in the unfortunate but possible event that the cell and landlines go down.
So we have a couple different systems. One is we have some measure or some number of satellite communications. I have a Starlink system that's going to be my vehicle. I've made contact with Harry. That's what I was going to say it, but I didn't want to think I was channeling a movie. But anyway, I've contacted with Harry at his location. He assisted us with a test call between Port Orford and the Coos Bay Emergency Management Office with his ham radio system. So he has a ham radio system or network of folks in Curry County that is kind of our backup to our backup. Our secondary radio system, or I'm sorry, secondary communication system, if the phone lines go down, is of course radio, the existing radio system which is in place. It is kind of an older system. It's a little finicky sometimes, so that's our secondary communication system. Our ham radio network of folks is probably our tertiary one. And then as far as our satellite communication systems using the Starlink system, using the existing satellite phones we have, would be our fourth level or fourth layer of that, and to be used in one order or another that would work out best for us.
So you
Thank you
have
very much.
I have a ham. I now have a couple ham radios that I have with me. Actually, they're at home right now. That I am not licensed for. I suppose if I really need an emergency, I'll use them and they can come arrest me and then they can help us right then. But yes, I do have a couple ham radio systems that now some smaller ones. And like I said, Harry helped us out and showed us his systems that he has, showed us his radio trailer he has, a very capable appearing system, and was able to speak to Mr. Del Rio, the emergency manager up in Coos County from his location there, his residence.
Clark, does that answer your question? And do you have any further questions?
It does answer my question. Thank you very much. And I have no additional questions at this time.
Thank you. Okay.
In the chat, I shared the, at least I think it did. I hope it doesn't go somewhere it's not supposed to. In the chat, I shared the location of the Delgami, of one of the tsunami maps for the area of Port Orford, for the town itself. Oh yeah, there we go.
And we have those maps available in the City Hall.
Yeah. Anyway, and I always recommend that citizens look at the maps, look at their location, and the map will show, the different colors show different inundation levels based on the size of the expected tsunami. I know that my wife made contact with a lady who was quite upset because she was very upset about losing everything. And when my wife said she's up here, I'm like, she's fine. She's way out of the inundation zone. So we were able to tell her, just based on my memory of where her place was at, that she was fine. She doesn't have to worry about anything, doesn't have to evacuate. And if you're outside the inundation zone, prepare your house for, being able to subsist without, with maybe a couple weeks of stuff, and you're probably going to be in real good shape. So
We do have tsunami maps available. Get there. So there are places. I have one that's a really good tsunami evacuation map for Port Orford. I believe I got it online, and it gives all the directions and for evacuating. The other thing is to watch the signs. There are tsunami evacuation signs that give you some idea of where to go, but it always helps to know ahead of time where you're going, and even to take a drive in those directions and to look at more than one direction so that you have alternative places to go, because in any emergency, sometimes these roads get bottled up with cars and people. So you may want to have a second or third alternative to go to if you're trying to get out of the tsunami zone.
I'd like to have but I think if people are seeing that, they're going to see a mark on the road before they're going to see a sign.
Yes.
There's signs all over the place,
Mhm.
and it's so easy not to notice them.
yes, there's one at the top of the road for the evacuation point for county personnel that work at the courthouse and the annex. It's kind of the finish line for the big wave run or whatever. But yeah, we have those there too. I do recommend those. I know Newport had those in place after, I want to say after the 2011 tsunami.
The ones on the street.
Yes. One thing I'll throw out just real fast that I forgot to mention, the county has contracted with University of Oregon for a county-wide evacuation plan. I know that Mr. Burns and I think a couple other people from this committee were sat in for the steering committee on that. That's between 25 and 50% done. I'm not doing it. That's being done by people who are very educated, and that's what they do for a living. Once that's completed over the next couple of months, that'll be available online for citizens to be able to click on. And that's supposed to be able to show, click on a location, show a route from that location to be able to evacuate, an alternate route from that location to evacuate. It's also supposed to grade our bridges to be able to say which bridges are in the best shape, which bridges are going to be in the worst shape, and potential landslide locations which may end up interfering with those evacuation routes.
And that will include the cities as well as the county?
That includes the whole county, yes. And that's in progress right now. I don't have a completion time. There's still some checking they need to do, but in the next few months, and once that's up, I'll put out a press release, let everybody know that that's available, and a link to where that can be found. So.
Thank you.
Yep.
Can I ask one more question, or?
We have some people online first who've been waiting, and then I'll get back to you. Thank you.
All right, so first I'm sending an unmute request to Alan Johnson. He's the next person who's been waiting online.
Don?
It was Alan Johnson.
Alan, are you there?
I am. Yeah, I've got two questions. The first one is if we weren't on the Everbridge system, we would not have gotten a cell phone warning. Is that true?
No, actually, the cell phone warnings I got were actually from an automated system, and I don't know the name of it. I was as surprised as everybody else when it started going off on my phone, from the U.S. Geological Service. And then the second one, I believe, did come across Everbridge, but I'm not on that particular system. I'm not on the same area system that the Weather Service used. So you would have received notification from the Geological Service about the earthquake. I think you still would have got the initial tsunami warning. Everyone I've spoken to, most everyone I've spoken to has received the tsunami warning. But I can't answer 100% whether you would have got it. If you didn't get it, then, and you're not on Everbridge, then that may be a valid concern. But I know that I got it, and I know other people in my household got it who didn't sign up specifically for it. So I can't answer that. This is one of the reasons I'm real big on having a layered system to be able to receive notifications with the Everbridge, with the automated system, perhaps with an emergency radio, and then if you're close enough to hear one of the few sirens in the county, use that as your emergency notification also.
I know that the fire department did go out, especially in the Hamlet area where people could be trapped in that area. They went out with the vehicles and had the sirens going and were trying to notify people out there. And also over, I think they were out at Battle Rock area trying to get people off the beaches. So they were out there trying to warn people as well.
Okay. No, in my case, I was out of town. I was in Seattle at the time, and I did not get a warning. And I was thinking, wow, this is a pretty cool system. It be able to know where we are. So I'm not complaining. I just was curious. I have one other, maybe a suggestion.
Please.
Some of us probably have like GMRS type radios we use when we go off road and that kind of stuff. And perhaps if the county or the city could settle on a frequency, that would be a useful thing too for Communicom when the phones are down.
Will be, Ken Stevens has been trying to re-license KUPO FM 105.5. It's the local radio station. And we're going to try to establish a communication with him, and he's setting up a studio, and we should be able to all get on just a inexpensive emergency radio and be able to hear what's going on in our community. And so that'll be a real handy tool when he gets that all organized.
Oh, okay. Yeah, these are like the FRS, GMRS type handheld radios, the walkie-talkies. That's what I'm talking about.
Gotcha.
That's all. Thanks much.
Thanks, Alan.
There's someone else.
Yes, we have another person online, Brian Thompson.
Brian, are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. So my question, two actually, but it's in relation to the Driftwood School. Parent of a first grader, and their evacuation is at Jackson. And I'm curious if there could be, on the city side, I guess this would be related to Gary, et cetera, but some signage so that it's easier for parents to know where that evacuation area is. And if there is signage, I think that would definitely help, just for the community to know, oh, this is where Driftwood School, evacuates to. So I guess that's a question for, some signage there if it's not already a plan. I apologize, I came in the meeting late. Maybe you already discussed this. So there's that. And two, is there, like, where that cargo container is there room that it can be easier for the school to actually be like around that cargo area and not on Jackson Street itself? So, two questions.
As a parent at Driftwood, did you receive any kind of information about what happens at the school when there's an emergency?
So, my wife is a teacher there, and she just told me what to do. So, but prior to that, did I have knowledge? No, I did not.
Because I believe the school has a plan to take the kids up to Jackson Street.
Yeah,
But
no, they did, but I heard through different parents that were like, that they had no idea of that rendezvous, and were concerned about that, which thus if there is some signage that would say this is the evacuation site for Driftwood School, which would, I believe, be either Driftwood or a city thing, I think that would be helpful.
I agree. I think it might be worthwhile for the commission to speak with the principal and other perhaps teachers at the school to talk about this, because as I understand it, what happened was the teachers took the kids up to a pre-designated point on Jackson Street where they would be safe. But there were parents who came to pick up the kids and either picked the kids up, or they also picked them up and didn't tell anyone that they were picking them up. And my thought is, if you have parents converging on a school, that merely is another congested point that limits people to escape. So I think it would be important to talk to people at the school and get a clear picture, and then have something to distribute to the parents, letting them know what's happening. Because as you said, if your wife wasn't a teacher, you may not know what was going on. So maybe we can work with the school to try and fix that.
Copy. I think that'd be a great, but if the city could come at the signage element, as city signs are concerned. So whoever takes responsibility on that, but I think this being a part of city stuffs in terms of this commission, is that to implore for the city to work on some signage.
Yes, and Gary, can you talk and address the cargo container question he had?
Well, I'm supposed to meet with Aaron at some point here soon for a debrief on that. And there needs to be more of a area cleared out for the children to hang out. And if it had been raining, there's a lot of things to kind of work through. I'm thinking that we'll have a blue line on both sides of the safe zone on Jackson Street. And then try to advertise to all the parents in the community that is the safe zone. And it's a pretty big area as you're driving to 12th Street there. you can see how it kind of rolls, and there's a high spot there that's a pretty big area, but the children need to be on the side of the road at the very beginning so that the crazy drivers can all get through before they try to cross the children onto the side of the container. So there definitely there's some things that we need to work out with the school there.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Brian. Okay, is there anyone else online that we see, Joseph?
No one else is commenting or raising their hand.
Okay, any further questions? I think you had another question or comment.
There was just a quick comment with regards to what Gary was saying, which is if you put the little signage up about what elevations are, I'm wondering if that bridge that's heading north out of town will be covered by a tsunami, so people won't be able to go north. And that might be something that should, you know,
Theoretically.
There's a sign that says you're entering a tsunami zone, I think,
does say that.
on both ends of town.
I'm just thinking if I was driving, okay, never mind.
What to see. And I think that's one of the reasons we wanted input is to find other ways to help people know what to do and where to go. And we've done quite a bit so far as posting information. I know Gary has been on the networks and other Facebook pages providing information to people, but many people aren't on Facebook. So for them to come to the city, there's information at the city they can get. So I think if you can inquire with the city and Gary in particular, they can certainly help you find the information you need. There are some booklets there, this one in particular, and Jeff, maybe you can say if this has been updated as yet. This is a really good booklet on Are You Ready? That helps you to plan and know what to do in emergency situations. And that's not just tsunamis, that's earthquakes and fires in particular too can affect us. So we should be prepared for all of those. So this booklet, I believe the city has some of them left, but are we going to get more?
Yes, there's a new version of that, which the information is literally identical. The governing body of the state wanted more pizzazz, I think was their exact term. So I had somebody who's a lot better at artwork and stuff than me to spritz it up. So that's been fixed up. It just needs to be approved by both entities. That book's a collaboration between us and Coos County. But if you get one of the older copies like that, the information is nearly identical. It's just the new ones have better artwork, more pictures and that sort of thing. I also have those, or will have those available in Spanish very shortly here, getting those delivered to me also. But yeah, those are good. That's a very good resource. It's very easy to follow. It actually has a budgeted shopping list so you don't have to get your 2 weeks all in one shot, since none of us can probably afford to do that at one shot, but it gives you kind of a shopping list to buy this pay period, that pay period. And after a month or two, you've got your 2 weeks of stuff saved up. And that's one of the links I have in the press release that's on, I believe, Curry County Justice, that if you click on that link, it will take you to Coos County's website, because that's not on Curry County's website right now, because the Curry County's website was just updated and we're trying to get the new one on there. But for folks that want to read it right now, it's available right now as we speak on Coos County's emergency management website, and it will be identical to the one that Curry County has.
And then when these are published, we'll be able to get some, because I think we're pretty short on supply right now.
Yes, absolutely. I have a budget for that already. It's just a matter of getting them approved and printed and put together. So.
Yeah. Thank you, Jeff.
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions from the commissioners or comments from the commissioners at this time? Dick?
Yeah, we've covered a lot of ground and with a lot of good input, and there was, of course, a lot of facets in what happened. But I was intrigued by what Jeff from the county mentioned, and also what Commissioner Howe brought up about the communication side of it, or the dispensing of what's going on. It seems like what we need now is a better understanding of what worked, what didn't, what was put out, what was followed up. I've heard several ways that people even knew about this. I happened to get it as a NOAA announcement, and I was in Klamath Falls, and it was pretty vague. You know, we had an earthquake and maybe a tsunami, but I tried to go back and see what that message was, but unfortunately I couldn't find it. But what I think would be useful, and maybe you've already started on that, would be a log or a timeline related to each one of those notification systems, from NOAA to Everbridge and whatever else there is, and see what was sent out, exactly what time it was sent out, and if they were sending out the right information and following it up. Because like any event of that sort, it's very dynamic. On the front end, we know the ground shook and we think there might be a tsunami, and that's probably all anybody has. But very soon after that, we know more details, and that information filtered out. But I didn't see it coming out through the same sources that provided the initial announcement of the event. I picked it up off of some of the news media. But for you, Jeff, is there a log that shows what was sent out, what exactly they conveyed? Was it necessary information? And did they follow up? So the decisions could be made downstream.
So I have a log that's going that, and the times are quite a bit different from yours. And I can't explain that because I do have access to that, but I didn't use their system. I kept the log on my own because that's just the way I've always worked. And my times were off my notebook and my phone. The information that was put out initially was the USGS automatic notification of the earthquake. The follow-up to that ended up being from the Weather Service on their Everbridge broadcast. That gave us a tsunami warning. And then I believe I have to go back and look at my notes again to make sure I'm not skipping them here, space here. And then the third notice I actually got, earthquake, tsunami, and then the third notice I got was wave time. And then once wave time hit, I realized we had a very short preparation time. After that, I didn't receive any information from any entities. And I know during the process of communicating back and forth between myself, the regional coordinator, Coos County, the Coos County coordinator called NOAA directly, and NOAA couldn't give him any updated information either, which I thought was odd, but that was in the moment. And who knows if he called up there and maybe like somebody picked the phone up who wasn't in on the information. I have no idea about the answer to that. The press release I put in that I released with the county, that has the times that I have from my log. So that's the times as I saw them and wrote them down. My final report, which will be at least portions of it will be released to the public because I don't have final say on what goes out and what doesn't, but all pertinent information will be put out. That's also going to include the computer aided dispatch log from dispatch. I noticed when I looked at it that their times were different than mine also, but then again, it took several minutes for the law enforcement data system to send a notice, which typically comes from either the Weather Service or NOAA. I can't remember which one sends those directly to LEDS, and then LEDS that was like a follow-up message to a dispatch center. And I know that the head dispatcher said that they didn't receive that for quite a while after. But I don't know the exact time off the top of my head. I know it's in their CAD log. So,
well, I wasn't looking for answers at this meeting, but yes, looking forward to finding those answers from your log, from whatever logs the agencies have, and find out if what was done was useful, whether they didn't provide enough information or follow-up information. It's kind of my gut feeling that if they put out a major emergency announcement, they ought to follow it up and they can temper it a little bit with more knowledge. Can we expect that, and can we see that when you've prepared that, or someone in your organization has prepared it?
So it'll probably be me preparing it. And as far as I'm concerned, I have to go to the director of the emergency managing director, which is Brad Alcorn. Once I get his check off on it, which I can't imagine him saying no, that'll get released in its entirety, because as far as I know, that's all public record. So I got no reason to hang on to it. So that'll be released to the public. I'm definitely going to look for the log that you have because that's quite a bit different than mine.
Yeah.
And I get it there. That's Everbridge. I know mine's accurate based on, because I did it off my phone, my notebook sitting side by side. So I know mine's accurate to my information. I just want to make sure what theirs says, make sure that where the breakdown is between that timeline and my timeline.
Yeah, the other
Make sure
thing
I'm
that
putting out accurate information also.
I got multiple calls
Mhm.
advising me, and I got multiple calls saying all clear.
Mhm.
The calls were intermixed.
Yes. Well, and I think some of the agencies were slow getting information out. All my calls for I got way more calls to clear eventually based on all the Everbridge subscriptions we have. Once dispatch got their system back up and running, they did send out an all clear. And by the time I got their all clear, I had received one from the Weather Service and from NOAA and a phone call from the Weather Service. And then I got the one from dispatch. And then I was getting that on 2 cell phones and a computer. And so I was getting, I don't know what the number comes out to be, but it was a lot of notifications that it was all clear.
Yeah, I was getting notification that there was a tsunami, then all clear, and then there was a tsunami.
Gotcha. Okay. And that's obviously problematic. So we should probably chat afterwards and just see kind of what system you had and their times, because I
didn't even think about keeping track of it.
I got you. Okay.
Did you think that maybe because the earthquake was in California and the potential tsunami was in Oregon, do you think that that state gap had something to do with the differences in how it was put out there?
It's possible. Like I said, yesterday or the day before, one is the first time I heard where there were different agencies in California saying there is a tsunami coming, and then the tsunami center saying, no, there's not. But I think by that time, the tsunami warning had gone out. And the other agency, and it was actually, the story I got third hand was it was actually broadcast over the radio, like the regular car radio, FM radio. And the FM radio disc jockeys were putting out news quickly saying there's a tsunami, and they called the tsunami center directly, and the tsunami center answered the phone on air and said, there's not going to be a tsunami from this. It's the wrong kind of earthquake, which I didn't hear that until yesterday because I didn't listen to the radio apparently. But then they disconnected with that person at the tsunami center, called somebody down at the port, and the person at the tsunami center actually called back and was put on the air and said, there's not going to be a tsunami. But then at that point, the train's in motion. So then everybody needs to get it. It needs to be canceled and shut back down again. And I didn't hear any of that stuff because that came from county personnel who was driving through the exact area, happened to be driving through the exact area of the earthquake and just happened to be listening to the radio that came out on. And I didn't hear that until, like I said, yesterday. So all the information I had, again, was, like I said, the Geological Service, Weather Service, and then Weather Service the second time. And then the next update I got was the Weather Service when they called me. Because I missed it on my phone because, like I said, my phone crashed for a while. And then, and I was running 2 phones at the same time. And then when I got the call from the Weather Service, I couldn't hear who they were. And then I said, who is this? And he said, it's Mark. Cool, Mark. Can you tell me why I can cancel the tsunami? And who are you from? And he said, I'm from the Weather Service. Okay, that's who I need to hear from. So, and then the official thing started showing up on my phone, the notification from them to cancel it. And so.
Dick?
Well, again, following up on what Jeff said, we have 2 facets of this problem. One is the internal communication between the agencies and how they keep each other updated. My initial question was, and where I would be concerned, is how this information is disseminated to the citizens that we expect to be responsive in some manner. Mm-hmm. Is that effective? Is it accurate? Is it timely? That was what the gist of my question was, and why a log of that, maybe compiled from what Commissioner Howe has, or you have, or anybody has, and see what worked, what didn't, so we know what to do going forward.
Yeah. And I know that Everbridge did not work locally because the broadcast didn't go out. And that's our primary information dissemination system right there, which is troubling that it didn't work. And we're in process. I know that the agency is in process to try to make sure that doesn't happen again. Everyone I spoke to got the notice like I got the notice and activated their individual plans and then operated that way. And then the follow on to that was me calling individual agencies or at least regions to say, have you gotten this notification? Are you executing your plan? And as long as I got a yes from all the areas that I was responsible for, which obviously is North County, South County, East and West, then I was like, okay, notification's out, next problem. But yes, that's something I definitely want to try to look into. Like I said, the using that Everbridge system is something, if one, the dispatch, it does go out by dispatch, which is our hope. It didn't initially do that, but that is our plan to be able to use that system for follow-up information, which is what they did when they got the all clear. They did get it back up and running. They did send the all clear notice out.
Well, it seems like the more I hear in regard to what happened, the worse it gets, which is why I think it's so important to know what did work, what didn't work, and what was done. And that can be assessed, and then we know what to do next time.
Yeah.
Because obviously we want to do it better than this time.
Yes, and that's why I said that's when I'm going to compile a report when I'm done with all the agencies debrief, and I'm just down like 3 or 4 major agencies and then a couple of little ones, and then that's going to be compiled. I'm going to have a list of things that went right, list of things went wrong based on all the agency input I've gotten, push it back out the agencies, make sure they check, did I get this correct? Once it's checked off, then it'll be released to the public, so we have that. So
Then you'll be sharing that with,
that's my plan, yes.
all right, that's what I was looking for.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
Harry is our ham radio operator and maintains the trailer with all the radios in them. What was your experience in utilizing the ham radios and the communication you heard through that system?
Well, what I did once we got the tsunami warning, I activated our local hams to stand by in case we were needed. And that was basically the extent of what we did.
Okay. And that network is quite large. We've got quite a few ham radio operators in Port Orford, Curry County, as well
So
as
many in Port Orford.
in the
But
county.
we have connections in Coos County,
Okay,
so,
thank you.
yeah, we've only got probably 7 active hams in Port Orford.
Well, to me, that sounds like a lot.
Now, would you hook the trailer up and just take it up DD probably, if you needed to move?
I would have to wait and see what the authorities wanted me to do with that.
And
I'm not going to self-activate or anything because I may go the wrong direction.
Who would be?
Well, it would either be the city managers here or Jeff.
And my thought, just from right here, if it looks like if you haven't heard from one of us, move your essential equipment to high ground. You pick where that's going to be, and we'll find you and talk to you. So
You wouldn't have to go very far.
No, just around the corner.
Yeah.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments with regard to this topic? Okay, thank you, Jeff. I appreciate it.
Jeff.
Okay, we purposefully shortened the agenda this time in anticipation of feedback from the community. So we don't have a whole lot of business unless you want to add anything to the agenda here. We had talked prior to this about identification pins, and I know Gary has come up with a nice pin that we could, I think it was only $8 for that. That would be an identification pin for the members. Did you happen to bring it with you?
I forgot to bring those, yeah.
Okay, well, we can look at that maybe next time.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, for $8.50, you can go on Amazon and have a really nice, and they've got a magnet back and a pin back.
I would like to propose that we use some of the funds and buy a couple cases of emergency thermal Mylar blankets to put in the trailers.
We don't have any funds.
I thought we had 10,000.
No,
Okay, where did it vanish?
well, it just really wasn't there.
Okay,
The money in the budget goes to salaries. The way the system's set up, we're working on changing that, but there's never really been any money. If we have a project, there's a possible $3,000, but just saying for how much money the city has, we really just don't have any. We're going to have to be making some big cuts.
There is funding through FEMA that we could apply for, and maybe in January we should look at that, and I'll see if I can't find out more information on it. Usually the grants, you have to have something specific that you want, and I know we had a wish list that we've developed, and a lot of that has to do with radios and communication devices, which is really important. Also educational materials. We should be able to get a lot of materials from FEMA for free. That's another thing I'll look into, but that may be a direction we should go.
okay.
Okay. All right, any other issues or subjects you want to talk about? Otherwise, this is meeting adjourned. All right, meeting adjourned at 6:55. Thank you all for coming.
Fun.
The hospital reacted at the same time. They went into their emergency mode. Right with, so I sat in the lobby and